introduction. I'm currently a third year medical student at University College of Medical Sciences at New Delhi, and I have been a part of PRMP since the first uh, term of PRMP, and we have worked around 5 to 6 projects. Apart from that, I'm currently the regional project head for India and have been currently looking over 4 to 5 teams so that they get the work done. So most importantly, which I want to talk about is the timeline of the study that you guys will be incorporating in your research. At first hand, when you hear about a timeline, it's like that not given that much preference because people feel that ultimately the work will get done at its own pace and there is no point in making a timeline. But when deadlines start getting missed, teams obviously get stressed and mentees especially start on asking the questions why the work is not being done. And at PRMP, currently we are not doing any screening, particularly for the mentees. So there's a mixed crowd, right? So there might be people who are already adapted to working under pressure, some who are not, and some who work at their own pace. And this difference of opinion and ideology actually changes the timeline of the project. So it's basically like there should be better communication between team members, and most of the times the projects don't get completed or get left in between only because there is deficiency of communication between the team members, especially between mentee to mentee, because they are all from different areas, different countries. So there is not enough communication, and the only point of communication is with the mentor, where they're not able to talk freely and discuss what is going on their mind. And like with the inevitable freedom, which obviously PRMP gives, that there are not any time restrictions and people go on publishing their articles even after what the time is allotted. And there are always factors which are always beyond control, which do affect the timeline, and people keep on anticipating and mitigating against such delay, and ultimately they do a successful project, but the time taken is not appropriate. So like some delays include life events, like mostly if you are working with mentees, there are times when they have their exams or they are busy with something else. And not only for the mentees, but even for the mentors, they also have their exams in case they are undergrads, or if they are graduates, there are different events that they have to attend apart from uh, the PRMP meetings. Then there are ethical approval and grant approval uh, delays. Like, for example, if you are working on a systematic review and you are going in for a Prospero submission, there is definitely a delay between the submission and the granting and the publication of the protocol. So that delay is definitely should be considered. Then there are input from the collaborators. Collaborators, not only particularly the mentees, where they are going to suggest ideas, where they are going to contribute to the manuscript, but also input from the other help you are taking in case you are taking help from the PRMP statistician. So there obviously might be delay in what I would say the protocol writing or the manuscript writing. Then there are a lot of other factors also, like even when you are submitting to a journal, the project is completed, but the time taken from the start to the end definitely takes time. So that should be definitely considered. So all these points all lead to the fact that it is essential to plan and execute a research project, and it can be only achieved by establishing achievable timelines. So like either big or small, it would be really great if you guys draw and stick to a reasonable and achievable timeline. The timeline which currently we are working in PRMP, which we are currently planning, is the Gantt charts, which are used to deliver milestones and other deliverables. Apart from that, timelines obviously can be decided even after a thorough discussion with your team, where they include the exams or any other important events. Obviously, the unforeseeable events cannot be considered, but you can give it a little bit of time. So, talking about particularly making a timeline, it's all about setting short, medium, and long-term goals. Like you can you divide your project into different terms. For example, the literature review and gaps in knowledge and research vision, aims of the project. These all take definitely a lot more time. So you can give a considerable amount of time to these things. Then the next step comes in targeting journals initially, to keep in mind if they have any open thematic issue or not. And then there comes the formation of a review or whatever manuscript type of manuscript you are working in. Then comes the outline. So that should be kept in mind. Then there comes the compilation of the manuscript, where everyone has completed more or less their parts. So the uh, primary author or the first author uh, compiles the whole manuscript, checks the references, and it is ready to submit in the journal. Then comes the submission to a journal, where you have already identified the different themes of journals you are interested in, and then begins the long process of submission, revision, rejection, and then the final publication. So it's like the timeline should definitely include start dates and end dates, include an anticipated number of meeting hours each week, which the mentor would be deciding. Then total number of project work hours should be included, and it should also include a week by week listing of planned project milestones. And this level of detail would not only help the mentees understand the structure of the project, but also shows how much careful you are in planning the project. So, uh, the average time can include, like, if you the mentees are undergrads, like around 10 hours a week. So these hours obviously can change, and you can vary them according to your own preferences. And like there are different examples. I'll share on the mentor group the different timelines that I had prepared, and the as currently the RPH, the other teams sent me, and you can obviously refer to them for the what you guys have to include in your timeline.
I'm sorry to, yeah, Aman, could you share some of the timelines with us today? Is it possible to do that?
Uh, yes, like my laptop just got discharged, so I had to join from my phone.
Oh
So
no.
here on
All
my
right.
otherwise I had prepared a presentation. So
No
uh,
problem. No problem. So I'll continue sharing my screen. You let me know when you want to share.
all right.
Okay. Yeah, please
Okay.
continue. Yeah.
So like now I like initially gave you a brief outline on how to create the timeline, the various parts of a manuscript which you need to give attention to, and different factors which should be included as delay in the timeline. So it's all about outlining your goals, like because before you begin, it's crucial to know what your goals are, and your team, as I said, decides on it mutually on your overall goals, and even the individual goals which each member is given. Approval should be taken from everyone, and misunderstanding should be avoided. Then, after outlining your goals, you need to make solid milestones which you would including in your project, to schedule it, plan it, and eventually evaluate it. So it the milestone should be an actionable step that brings you closer to your final goal, which is the formation of the manuscript, whichever type you are working on. So you need to break your project into small different sections so that it doesn't look overwhelming, and it would definitely help you to create a timeline. Then, as I said, decide the time frames. The first part of planning should definitely take much longer time. You should also comment on the novelty, because these days a lot of people, especially students, are involved into research. So you need to also keep in mind the novelty of the project. So definitely the planning of the project takes time. Then comes the formation of review outline. Review outline, as I said, divide your project into different headings so that you are able to complete those headings eventually and easily. Then once you are complete with the literature review, then you need to prepare a sample abstract, either to send abstract for confirmation from the journal, like journals do accept an pre-abstract so that they get to know what manuscript you are publishing. And it also saves you time, because journal you might submit and might not be interested in the manuscript, so it would just waste your time. So it's better if you send pre-abstracts to journals so that they get an idea on what topics you are submitting in. Then the abstract might also be used in preparing your Prospero protocol, which eventually would include the study strategy also. Then, after the literature review comes your introduction part, where in the introduction you write all the initial prior literature art and the lacunae which are uh, in the project, and it would the lacunae might also help you prepare a research idea, where the lacunae would lead to your new research topic. Right. Then after the study strategy, then comes the results part and preparation of your further data extraction section using Prisma guidelines or whatever guidelines you are using. Then, I'm talking particularly about a systematic review. Meta-analysis and observational studies would obviously involve extra efforts. So then, after the formation of result section, you divide the result section into different sections, and the mentees might volunteer on what part they want to work on. Then comes the conclusion section, which summarizes the whole manuscript. So this was about a systematic review. In a meta-analysis is basically systematic review plus statistics. So you need to keep in mind extra statistics which you are considering. And in an observational study and a case report, the extra section of ethical approval comes in. In an observational study, you need to take an ethical approval from the institute itself. And in for a case report, you need to take permission from the patient and from the head of department you are working in. So these are the different major sections you can divide your manuscript in. And eventually, after that, you can divide your manuscript into parts. Then comes after the formation of an initial idea on what all things you want to work on, you review everything, because before launching your proposal management timeline, everyone must agree to it, including yourself, including the team, or even whoever you are consulting, maybe your mentor or someone else. Then ultimately you create your timeline, and for the creating a timeline, either you can create a simple tabular format, or there are different project planning tools online which are available, which would add the attraction your timeline needs. So eventually it would be easier for an action to develop an actionable timeline, because if you have the idea, you have the rationale in mind, you can prepare a timeline which your mentees agree to. And last part comes after the formation of timeline, the most difficult part, which is tracking and analyzing. So there might be times where mentees are not compliant to the timeline or are delayed or the light timeline. So it's definitely important for you to know the reason. If there is genuine delay, there that can be understood. But eventually, if someone is making an excuse ki my exams are going on for 2 months, or he or him is busy in something else, like even if you spend half an hour a day on a manuscript, it's very easy to complete it within a stipulated timeline. So it's important to maintain a degree of what I would say professionalism and strictness, and you need to remind your mentees from time to time on what objectives they have been given, because once the WhatsApp group gets dead, it's difficult to revive it, because the mentees themselves consider the uh, mentor to be incompetent, I would say. And then the project eventually gets delayed, or maybe even does not get worked upon at all, and the all the hard work which has gone into planning and plotting, that is eventually wasted. So obviously you need to remind your mentees, and we are definitely there to help you in case a mentee is really causing problems or eventually non-compliant to it. Then obviously definitely an action will be taken. So it's important for you to realize that you have been given an opportunity to teach the mentees, because uh, you are not eventually getting anything. So it's eventually not getting anything in terms of benefit. So this is for a good cause, and if you think that you are up for the job, you need to take it seriously. And same, all those things which I discussed about creation of a timeline, you also need to comply to it and not getting non-compliant in between. So it's like uh, both an initiative of you people and mentees also, so that eventually you are able to do the complete project. And obviously, in case you need any help, we are there. Dr. Purva is there, and other facilities are being provided, including the statistician. So you can either discuss with us or let us know in case you are facing any issues with the mentee, or even facing any other problem as such. And for the conclusion, uh, I discussed about how to create a timeline. That is just an idea for you. Eventually, it completely depends on you whether how you want to do your project. I would suggest to definitely create a timeline, so that not only the mentees but also you get reminded on what milestones are being completed, and you can track, analyze, and take action in case the project is not completed. Apart from that, I would suggest to not take multiple projects at a time, because eventually the mentees and you will get confused on what particular topic to work on. At max, two projects work, where that two big ones, like just two systematic reviews. And apart from that, you can also consider doing letter to the editors and other small manuscripts in case you are willing to do it. I think that's it. And over to Dr. Purva.
Okay,
If
thank you so much, Aman, for giving an insight into why to create timelines and how to create timelines. I'll share an example of a Gantt chart that I'm trying to prepare for PRMP systematic reviews. Just to give an overview, this is how a Gantt chart looks like. It's incomplete right now, but we are trying to complete it. And here we have, I'll just zoom in so that everybody can see. Yeah. So month, week, you can divide the year into quarters. So it will only be 2 quarters per PRMP rotation. And then for every week, what task everybody's doing. So when you start, for example, if you start in week 1, then you keep it. And if that task goes on till week 3, then you can color those cells as well. what all to write. For a systematic review, I can help out, and for an observational study, we can modify in terms of creating questionnaires and creating a paperwork for ethical consideration. Otherwise, manuscript writing is pretty much the same for all papers. So group introduction, that is, I'll zoom in a bit. Yeah. So for group introduction, we have kept about 1 week for all the group members to gel in well. And you can also have a bonding activity. Next to next week, in the other meeting, we'll be teaching some networking and bonding activities for group introductions that you can use later on in other projects as well. And then regarding the research question and PICO, so research question goes for all types of studies. And for case reports, the most time consuming part is actually looking for a case and finding a good case. So that would definitely be the most time consuming part. Otherwise, for other research projects, this should not take a lot of time. But please make sure the research question that you choose, everybody is very, very comfortable with it, because you are going to work on that particular question for the next 6 months. So the interest has to be there at the end of 6 months, just like it was there on the first day of your work. Then coming to literature search. So as Amaan mentioned, you can divide the project into different sections, and then you can divide each section into different subsections. So for example, literature search, I divide that into informative call. So informative call is basically just one Google Meet or Zoom meeting where I teach them how to use PubMed, Google Scholar, etc. And then we decide the alternative terms and keywords and subject headings, and what Boolean terms to use, and truncation and wildcard strategies to use. And then we start our process. So that's how you divide each section into subsection as well. And then we have reference management, we have writing the proposal, prospectus registration, title, abstract review. So you get an idea about how to write. And I have a Gantt chart is quite complex if you are starting right away, but once you start using it, it will be very, very effective for you. Now, coming to the other part of our meeting, talking about the mentor sheet and how to fill it and when to fill it. I'll open that in just one moment, please. Until then, any queries you have regarding what Amaan or I said, please ask. If you need any help with creating a timeline, or if you have already created a timeline for your group, and if you want to share that, then please go ahead and share it.
On the group, I just shared a few timelines in case you guys want to have a look and get an idea.
Great. I think that will be very helpful for everybody. Thanks, Amaan. Okay, coming to July to December. So first, let me give you an overview of the earlier rotations that we had. Yes. Are you able to see my screen? There seems to be an issue with.
Yes, it's visible.
Okay, awesome. So the red, we don't want any dissolved groups because of inactivity of mentees or unavailability of mentors. So we are trying to avoid that, and we want more green. So all the white ones are undergoing either submission process or waiting for acceptance or towards the end. The group dropout rate for the first rotation was 20%. And out of which mentors, the reason that mentors were unavailable, it was 5%, and mentee dropout rate was 15%. So in your group, when the mentees become inactive, as Amaan said, that after a period of inactivity, it might occur that nobody is responding in the group, what to do. So we have kept some rules for that as well. So everybody in the group has to respond within 72 hours. Now, I understand that 72 hours might be a small amount of time for some people. So we can extend that to 1 week. But if somebody is not responding for more than a month or more than a week also, you give them a warning, and then after 3 warnings, you can remove them from the group. We have enthusiastic mentees who are present in inactive groups and they would like to join your group. So please contact me if any inactivity happens and your project is being slowed down because of that. And now we are going to calculate the average time to project completion in the first rotation, fastest time to project completion for every type of research study, so that we know that, okay, it is possible in such a small amount of time or slowest time. So even if your project is taking a lot of time, you will have this idea that even though it is going slowly, it will get completed, because in the past, some projects did get completed even after taking so much time. Coming to the January to June rotation, the group dropout rate, as per today, it's 16%. Mentor dropout, it's 8%, and mentee dropout, it's 8%. So it's better than the first rotation, but still it needs improvement. And till I have not calculated the average time, I won't be able to show how efficacious this project is. But the dropout rate is reducing. And for July to December rotation, we want less than 10% group dropout rate. That is what we are hoping for. And how to fill a mentor form. The mentor names and study designs, they have already been mentioned. You will be writing your mentees' names. Please make sure that you write their whole name. Where do you find their entire names? You'll find them in the mentor sheet that has been shared with you, the document, group documents. And here you'll find their names and just copy paste here. Because when we create certificates, we are going to look at these names and we need them to be their full names. Then study topic. If you don't want to reveal your study topic because of any reason, it's completely okay. But if you have decided, please mention that you have decided the study topic. And when you have completed your data collection literature search, you add a tick mark to it. And statistical analysis, if applicable, if you've completed. Manuscript, if it is prepared, you add a tick mark. Manuscript submitted to a journal. Then when you submit to a journal, you add journal name, PubMed indexed or not, and impact factor. These are important points which will help us understand the scientific significance of your paper. And if a good journal accepts your paper, it is always a big tick mark to the scientific significance factor. If it is when it gets accepted, you can tick mark. If it gets rejected, you can mention in others part. I'll just add. So others, you can just mention submitted to this journal, but rejected or under review or something like that. Reason being, we know that even though you are not moving forward from this point onwards, and your manuscript has been completed for about 4 to 5 months, then we will know, okay, you are still trying to submit. And that is how we'll understand that your group is still active. And accepted, published, link to your paper. Link to your paper is also very important. So on our website, we are going to start adding links to all the papers. This way, number one, we will get more readership to all PRMP papers. Number two, different PRMP researchers can go through the papers, and if they are working on a similar topic, they can cite your paper. So it's always a plus point if your paper is being cited more times. And then coming to presentations. So even if you have not published, but if you have presented in a paper, poster, or oral presentation at any conference, it's a big plus point, and your group will be considered to have completed the PRMP rotation successfully. And you can mention the name of the conference, the date, and what was, if you won any positions, you can just mention that. Current status, I will be mentioning. Whenever a group has completed their project, I'll mention that, and if not. So I'm looking forward to a full mentor sheet by the end of 2 to 3 days. And I hope that all the mentees' names have been added. Study topics, if you've decided, please mention that you have decided if you don't want to reveal. Or like in previous cases, we were revealing the study topics as well. So it's up to you. If you just want to give a hint, you can. Otherwise, don't mention anything. It's completely fine. This was the main thing I wanted to talk to you about. And the third point I wanted to talk to you about was maintaining task sheet. In the chat box, could you let me know how many are from July to December rotation of 2022? Or you can unmute yourself and let me know that you are in the most recent rotation. Okay, great. Awesome. All right. So now I'm talking to the mentors of July to December 22 rotation. You all have been provided a Google document. So in the task sheet, it is very important that you fill this task sheet at least every month, if not every week. And this is an example to what I have done for my group that I'm mentoring. I started in the 4th week of July. So when I teach them something, I mention that I have taught them, because when you decide the author criteria, everybody's work will be taken into account. And as a mentor, your time will be spent more on teaching tasks and correcting the mistakes and checking their work, as compared to actually performing some of the tasks. But you have to mention that. That is how we will know that, okay, you are working. And then you can mention the mentees' names. Here you can mention their first name only or the full name, that is up to you. And if they attended the meeting or not, that is also very important. I have introduced the term task leader earlier in one of the meetings, so I won't go into detail. Whichever person you have appointed as task leader for the coming few weeks, you can mention that, because this will help them get some points when we decide the best mentor and best mentee. So even when you fill this table, we will be able to see what all work has been happening. So with mentor sheet and this group document, we will understand who is better fitted for that award towards the end of the year. And then the first task, if you don't want to write a lot, you can just mention first task. Or if you want to mention the entire thing, the entire task, for example, this, you can mention that. It's completely up to you how much in detail you want to write. Okay, so these two things I wanted to share with you, and I feel they are very, very important. And talking to mentors from other rotations, I don't believe I think there are 1 or 2 mentors from the Jan to June rotation. So we have not shared group documents with you yet, and we might not share the group documents. But if you want to create a similar table, then please, by all means, do so. So you have for yourself a document. Okay, any questions, any queries, we are free to take. We have about 10 more minutes till we end this session. I will stop the recording if we don't have any questions. So we'll wait for 5 minutes, and yeah, please go ahead. I'll take the attendance at the end of the meet and I'll share on the group. Yes, Dr. Zuha, please go.
Okay. So I would like to know, how do I divide the work? Like, should I myself assign them, or should I ask them to, I would like to have clarity on that.
Sure. Amaan, would you like to take that or should I take it? All right, so I'll take it.
Hello.
Oh, yes.
Can you please repeat your question? Like the voice got cut.
Okay. So my question is, how do I divide the work amongst them? Like, who will be doing the data extraction, and who will be doing what part of the manuscript? I would like to have clarity on that.
Like mostly it's that a few of the mentees already have some experience in data extraction or manuscript writing, so you divide them accordingly, but mostly it's just volunteering on what part someone is interested in. And data extraction is something which does require technical skills, So you can definitely have a session on having data extraction, so that the mentees at least have an idea to uh, uh, what part they want to do. In addition to that, it's not that you divide your work equally. It obviously is on first come first serve basis. Apart from that, what prior experience the person has, and definitely that affects the authorship skills. So at authorship order, so you can decide what work you want to give and what authorship you will give him or her eventually in the paper.
Does that answer your question, Dr. Suva?
Yes, Purva.
Okay,
In
Dr.
case I need any, yeah, in case there are any other queries, I'll let you know.
Sure. Thank you. Dr. Biki, yeah, please go ahead.
I have a question regarding the Ryan software. Can I ask by sharing the screen?
Sure. Do you want to share your screen?
Yeah, regarding the Ryan software.
Yes, I have shared the screen. Sorry, I've made you co-host.
Is my screen visible?
Not yet. I'll let you know. So is his screen visible to anybody else? It's not visible to me.
No, it's not.
Okay.